Hi friends, some of you guys probably already saw my short on YouTube or you saw my videos on TikTok or Instagram where I start talking about how I'm going to do this collective video for the full moon in Libra. This is just a collective reading. I'm sick, so please bear with me. I'm feeling a lot better. It was just a cold. This is the first day I've put on makeup in a few days and put on like a real shirt, and I'm like out of my bed. Even though you can see my bed's behind me, I'm just sitting in the desk in front of it, but still I've moved on, you know. I did the dishes earlier, you know, like I'm doing like more normal things and not just laying in bed. So I wanted to do this video ahead of time because on Saturday I might be busy. Since I am feeling better, I will likely be going to a family event tomorrow because I think I'll be fully all good. I never got a fever, anything like that. So I might be going to an event tomorrow. We'll see though. If I still feel a little sick, I don't want to make other people sick. So we'll just see. But for now, I wanted to make this video ahead of time so that I could go ahead and have it scheduled so that it'll just come out. We're going to be focusing on, like I said, the full moon in Libra. I already put some cards out. I'll be using some oracle cards from the Moonology oracle deck. And I already put out some tarot cards, but I'm going to have a few others that I'm going to draw as I'm doing the reading, so we can make like connecting pieces, right? So we can go ahead and get started with the reading here. The first card I have here is the most important one, the full moon in Libra. A win-win outcome is forecasted. This card is particularly about relationships. Libra is usually about relationships. If you know any Libras in your life, they're usually like pretty good leaders, especially when it comes to relationships. They're also like really balanced when it comes to conflict. Like if you're somebody who's a little bit more, like I'm a Taurus, so, and I have Scorpio placement. So like when I'm mad at somebody, I'm mad at them. And you cannot convince me otherwise. But sometimes whenever I talk to a Libra about what's going on, they're all like, well, think about it from their perspective or like something like that. And I'm like, no. So, but we can learn from Libras, of course, right? From every sign, we have things that we can learn from each other and tendencies that people fall into that, you know, maybe I don't need to be so stubborn with people sometimes, you know, like there's all types of different things we can learn. But from the full moon in Libra in particular, we're learning about relationships. And in this win-win situation, I talked about it a little bit on TikTok and Instagram, but in this win-win situation, sometimes for people, the win-win is that the relationship ends and that it's over. Because it's like, hey, this isn't working for either of us. I think that both of us would just be better off if this relationship was over. So if you feel like you're at that crossroads with somebody where you're like, wow, this relationship is really just not working, this is your sign to end that relationship and that you both will be better off. If you're in a relationship and you don't feel that way and you both really want to make it work, and genuinely too, not just like you don't want to lose. A lot of people stay in relationships for decades because they don't want to lose, and they end up losing their life, right? Like you spend so much of your life in a relationship with somebody and you don't give yourself like the freedom to have your own life, you know? And so separate from them, you know what I mean? Like you cut yourself off from opportunities. And not just in other romantic relationships, which is definitely there. Like you can't have a new romantic relationship or meet the person you're meant to be with if you're with the wrong person, right? And then also, whenever we're in long-term committed relationships, we don't take opportunities that we could if we were single. Like you might be single and then like a job opportunity comes up on the other side of the country. If you're in a relationship, you would think twice. You'd be like, what about this relationship with this person though? You know? And so it holds you back. So if you're not like totally like this person treats me well, we maybe just argue sometimes, like this person in general treats me well, they don't cheat on me repeatedly, they don't use me for my money, they don't, you know, XYZ, whatever, then like I think that it's a good time to come to a different conclusion with this person. Because I also have here, balance your ego with their wishes. So if you are like feeling like your ego is what's standing in the way, like you're more worried about what other people think about something, or like how dare they challenge me or something like that, then like that's whenever it's going to be like maybe it's time to compromise, you know, especially if we've been hurt in the past, right? Like sometimes we have been in these relationships that leave scars, and then you get into a new relationship and something might trigger you, and maybe their intention is not to hurt you. And maybe if you really think about it, what they did was not that big of a deal. And I don't want to minimize, of course, cheating, abuse, anything like that. Something that's like more of like an ego thing where you feel like your ego was activated and you want to like prove something. And then now the argument is about that, right? So that's whenever you start finding the compromise there. I also have Yeah, relationships are shifting. They're either starting, so some of you guys are going to meet somebody. They're ending, like I already talked about, or they're growing. Because also whenever we go through this conflict of like our ego being triggered and activated and then we work through it, you can become a lot closer to someone. I also have here, drama teaches you a lot about somebody. You know, if you go through drama with somebody, like it's a friend, romantic partner, work situation, whatever, and they turn into like a horrible person, then you know that that's what they're like, right? Versus like if you get in a drama with somebody and they like hear you out, they want to find common ground, you know, like all these other things, then that's going to end up being a different situation, right? And then I also have, for some of you guys, this message is to focus on yourself. If you feel like you've been like being distracted, caring about everybody else, and you're neglecting yourself, this is your sign to focus on yourself. Hold on, I'm gonna grab me some water. I like to do the whole reading in one go because I don't want to edit. So that's just what we're gonna get. I just hope that you guys like me and my messages enough to stick through the video or fast forward. Okay, so the next card we have here is Cardinal Moon. Like I said, Libras are usually leaders, right? And so that's like the cardinal energy. Cardinals are like the starting energy. These people are usually in charge in some way, and they're usually like leading the energy. And then we have the air energy as well with the Libra. So that's a little bit more like with communication. That's why they're really good at being leaders, you know? We have be bold and make the first move. This is your sign to, like it said, be bold and also be bossy. If you think that something needs to be done, it's not being done, you might need to be the one to step up and be the leader. I also have take matters into your own hands. And I have take the lead. Oh yeah, take the lead if you think something needs to happen. And what you might need a little bit more of is organization and being a little bit more determined in your life. Like, don't be so like quick to drop something or like move away from something. You need to be a little bit more determined, but also like come at it with a more organized mindset, you know? The other card I have here is Full Moon. Surrender to the divine. Whenever we get to this full moon, we're forced to confront things that aren't working for us. I have things are coming to an end or a turning point, like we had talked about with the relationships. And this could also, I mean, obviously in relationships, it's like work, love life, friendships, family, right? So in any of those situations. I also have tune into your emotions and learn. So a lot of times during the full moon too, things can really come to a head. Like I said, there's going to be like conflict, right? And so if you feel yourself being like super emotional about something, I want you to sit with yourself and ask why. Why is this so emotional for you? Why is this such a big deal for you? If your ego is being activated and triggered, why? What's going on, right? And then I also have the odds are in your favor. And that's for anybody who is like thinking about taking a leap. Like you're like getting to a point where you're just like, this is just not working for me. I keep getting to this point over and over again and like it's just not working. This is your sign that if you take that leap, the odds are going to be more in your favor, especially with like us going out of Mercury retrograde like very soon. Things are going to start like moving forward in that way. So the first card I have here is Four of Pentacles. We're talking about like greedy people not wanting to, what I'm getting is like stimulate the economy like at all, but also in relationships in general, you can have somebody who's just not contributing their fair share. And obviously fair share is totally dependent on the circumstances. You know, everybody's relationship is different. Everybody brings something different to the table. And sometimes if somebody like, let's say, is struggling to like hold a job, at least they're taking care of things at home, right? In some way, you guys are helping each other out. You know what I mean? So in this situation, I feel like you might be dealing with somebody who is not helping, not pulling their weight. Maybe you're the person who is constantly feeling as if you're not pulling your weight in some way. And you guys really need to, if you're going to stick it out, come to some sort of like circumstance or some sort of like conclusion about like who's going to do what and how it's going to help each other. You know, a big theme I'm having for this reading here too is cultivating connection and growth, right? So if you're going to be keeping these relationships in your life, you have to figure out like who's not giving enough and why. You know, why do they feel like it doesn't apply to them to be giving and helpful, right? I have Leo here. So if you're a Leo, or if you're thinking of a Leo in particular, here's your sign. But also the card here is strength. And we have that with those, like, it's attached to both the cardinal moon and the full moon in Libra. So you might need to be the one to take the initiative on something, whether it's like you're living with people who are maybe taking advantage of you with that Four of Pentacles. Maybe you need to like step up and be like, hey, either this isn't working anymore, right? Or we need to shift how we're doing things. If you're the person who maybe is not giving in like enough of your self, you know what I mean? If you're not contributing enough, you need to take the initiative to be like, hey, I get it. I don't feel like I'm contributing enough either. I may have lost my job and have been going through a depressive episode. I may have thought things were going to go differently and they haven't for me. And now I'm still here and it never worked out. And I get that it's a strain on you, that this never worked. My plan never worked out. So maybe I need to do something different. Right. So I feel like that's where we are. And it takes strength to admit like, hey, I was wrong. You know, it really does. And it takes strength too, to establish boundaries with people like, hey, I don't want this to be my life where I'm taking care of you all the time. It's totally fair. It's totally fair to feel that. You know what I mean? I have 5 of Swords. And so I feel like you guys might be arguing and the arguments do not feel good. Even if you win, it just like, it's not helpful to the relationship or to the growth here. Let's see. And then we have 6 of Wands. Yeah, we have victory. And Leo again, right? Yeah, Jupiter and Leo. The 6 of Wands and the 5 of Swords both together kind of give me this image that like, yeah, like there's lots of arguing, and even if you're right and even if you win, it doesn't feel very good, you know? And you're kind of like feeling like you're in this place where you have to constantly like defend your right to be in the space at all. I'm getting a feeling for some of you guys it's a work situation, and that like you're even doing well. Like for a lot of you guys, I'm getting that you are even doing well. You're excelling. You're bringing things to the company that they didn't have, and people are telling you this as well. But then there's also this like constant like you're constantly being checked. You know, they're trying to see what else they can get out of you. It's not good enough that you're doing great for the company and you've done all this stuff and you're an amazing worker. It's still not good enough. They're still trying to figure out like what they can pull out of you, how they can take advantage of you and use you in different ways, is what I'm getting for some of you guys, like pretty clearly. And then for other people, I'm just getting like, yeah, just arguing within the home, but then like not feeling good about the results of the arguments, whether you lose or win. You know, it just doesn't feel very good. This is whenever we're going to start doing our other cards here to make more connections. So I already shuffled these, and I did get one card earlier, actually. I have Page of Cups reversed, emotional immaturity, creative blocks, and insecurity. That's going to go with that surrender to the divine and be bold and make the first move. So I feel like that's what's kind of holding people back from making the first move in this like situation with their relationship, whether it's you or whether it's the other person, is a bit of that like emotional immaturity, and also maybe not knowing how. Like that's what I'm getting with the creative block, you know what I mean? And also the immaturity aspect is like not really knowing how. Like it's like, how do we fix this? You know, like things are messed up, but like, what do I do? You know, it's kind of what I'm getting with that. And maybe also a little bit of insecurity with it too, with those two aspects. I have 3 of Wands reversed. So with the win-win outcome and the be bold and make the first move, we have obstacles, lack of foresight, and unexpected delays. So I feel like you guys, this conversation has been a long time coming, and they might have even been like starting to have this conversation with you, but it never led anywhere. And it was just like, it's just like you want to like create that foundation so you can move forward. But then like you're unable to do that because they're just like not communicating with you or meeting you halfway on like anything. And it's just like, okay, well then what's the point of this? Like, what are we doing? You know, I have 8 of Wands. So like, this usually to me is like, you're super busy, but it also says like alignment, air travel, action, movement, quick decisions. We have fire and Mercury with this card here. So with that win-win and that like kind of greediness, I feel like, okay, so the reason that maybe this person is being greedy, whether it's you or whether it's them, whatever, I'm just saying greedy. I don't necessarily think that's necessarily like purposefully holding things away. I think it's just more of like, it's not an equal flow, like I was saying. So in this 8 of Wands here, I feel like that's where it's coming from. It's just like, things are just so busy and so wild, and things are just like going that nobody's like checking in and making sure that everything's good, you know? And so it's leading to this like, almost like dependence mindset. Like, it's just like, well, if you're not going to worry about me, I'm not worrying about you. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, you guys are just like separate, but then like there's this conflict in the relationship because it's like, you guys don't feel like you're helping each other out in whatever way. Like, there's not an equal balance here, is what I'm getting with that. And if it's within your company, kind of same thing. Things are so busy on their end that they're not thinking of you as like your own individual human, you know? They're just like, that's why it feels like exploitative, because it's like, what can we keep getting from this person? Because we're trying to make our like stocks go up, our like price go up. And bottom line is, we need this person to continue to do well. How can we get more out of them? You know, and they're not really like considering like you're a human in this situation. I have King of Pentacles here. Abundance, prosperity, security, wealth, leadership. This could be somebody in your life. But it could also represent like a boss. Or, I mean, yeah, somebody in your life, right? Like a boss. But it could also represent maybe you wanting to get your finances together, get your material stuff together, something like that is what I'm getting with this card. But I do feel like that's going to be how you have this conversation about like who is bringing in what, you know? How can you bring up this conversation with them? And I'm getting it's like, because the conversation is going to be about like prosperity and abundance in life. Like, how can we ever move forward in life if we're always here? We need to do something different, right? 10 of Pentacles. So definitely like, there's a really good chance for like prosperity, but I don't think it can be won with the 7 of Swords aspect there of like having these arguments, because I'm getting like saying things that you don't necessarily mean, or them like cutting really like harsh with like the way that they're handling things. And I think that's part of what's like, it's part of the problem and part of what needs to be worked through to get to that 10 of Pentacles, you know? Strength popped up again. So once again, you have to be strong and communicate. I have like Mercury on here a few times. You have to be strong and stand up for yourself. And be the one to start kind of calling the shots, honestly. Like, you need to call the shots. You need to be the one to be like, okay, this is like the expectations. This is what we need to do. Too many cards popped out. Too many. And so this is how like the relationships will grow. And maybe even like, you know, if moving into a new situation is what you need, then that's just what you need, right? I have the Emperor reversed. So whenever we're looking at like the surrender to the divine and the 6 of Wands like that, I'm getting the impression of like, not like kind of just like yeah, like surrendering, right? Just kind of like not necessarily letting things go, but just not focusing so much on winning, right? And with the Emperor reversed, we have immaturity, ego, tyranny, lack of discipline, rigidness, stubbornness. Like, Mars is conflict. We have fire, which is like sparking energy and being passionate. And those connecting pieces are like, you need to be careful. you know? And you kind of have to just accept that you don't know everything. Oh, we also have Aries here too. Leo popped up twice, by the way. Strength coming out twice, it's Leo twice. And then we have Aries as well. I'm going to do a central card here for the reading. Of just like overall what we need to know. Two of Cups. I think this is a sign to some of you guys that this relationship is going to work out. You need to consider the other things I said, though. I'm never, ever going to tell you to stick it out in an abusive relationship. Never. If you ever do a personal reading with me and you're like, is so-and-so going to leave their wife for me? I'm probably going to say no. Because that's just not ever what my focus is on. My focus is on liberation of women. And that can't happen if you're in a destructive relationship. So for those of you that you know you're in a healthy relationship, you're just struggling right now, the Two of Cups, that's your sign that this relationship is going to continue to work out. You just have to get through this. And same thing with like a work situation. If like usually work is fine, but you're just going through this weird bumpy period that doesn't make sense, it's going to work out. It'll be okay. You do need to stand up for yourself and take initiative, though, whenever it comes to conflicts within work, conflicts within the relationship, whatever it is. You need to be strong enough to stand up for yourself and draw boundaries. And you also need to be strong enough and admit when you're wrong, or admit whenever you're not doing what you need to be doing. And that's just how relationships are, right? The Emperor reversed really tripped me up. It really did. Because when connecting to this reading, it's almost like it's like someone who was put in charge but doesn't deserve it, is what I'm getting. That might be a message for some of you guys. Someone is in charge who does not deserve to be in charge. And whenever we think about like surrendering to it, it's like that's where we're having difficulty here. And the victory might even be like, you know that they're wrong. And maybe you've been doing good at work, or maybe you've been really showing like yourself in your relationship or something, but it's just not working because of this person who is going to continue to exploit you. That's what I have with that. So that might be a certain message for some of you guys. And then in comparison to that King of Pentacles that popped up earlier with the Strength and the Four of Pentacles over here, it's definitely like, I think stepping into leadership that's making more sense to me now. Stepping into leadership by being strong and setting these boundaries will bring abundance to you, is what I'm getting. And I think also things are really busy, like I was saying, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing in the long run. Like, I do think that it's like disruptive, and somebody is not taking the time to consider what other people are going through. Something like that is definitely happening, but I think that it doesn't need to necessarily stop the movement. It just needs to be like, there needs to be a better adjustment. Like I said, organization and determination are like big key things with this full moon here. This card definitely makes me happy, though. I feel like this is a good omen for you. And especially with that like Two of Cups, I think good things are going to be coming from this full moon. You just have to release those things that aren't working for you. Whether that's starting a new relationship, ending a relationship, or just realigning yourself, you know, growing together. Cultivating connection and growth. The theme that I had. Okay. I think that's it. I think that's everything I have for the reading. So I hope that this was I hope that this resonated with some people. It maybe supported some introspection. Maybe you have some particular things in mind that these can apply to. And I hope that the full moon treats you well, and that what you need to have happen happens, and you're able to move forward in a positive way. And I will see you guys next week when I'm feeling better. Bye.